Now, this is one of those stories that might make you shake your head. This is the time when federal agents seized not one, not two, not three, but 4 F-14 Tomcats. So our story begins at the Naval Air Station in Point Mugu. I've never heard of that Naval Air Station, but it's in California. So apparently, in the mid-1990s, a Navy officer was tasked to get rid of some F-14s. Now, you would assume that this process would be streamlined, double-checked, and verified. But apparently, this went down like a bad Craigslist sale. Okay, so this is what I got from my research. Whenever you retire an aircraft, you have to demilitarize it. You have to take out classified components, things like avionics, weapon systems, missiles. And one of the most important parts too, especially if they're going to be going to a museum, is anything hazardous to the public, like an ejection seat, which you would think is not dangerous, but when you really put some thought behind it, ejection seats, especially aging ones, could be a bad deal. So essentially, there's a process that needs to happen. Well, this is how this went down. So this guy or girl, doesn't specify, I think it was a warrant officer. I need to get more information. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. But essentially, they just called up like a local recycling company. Like we're talking about, the name of the company was California Public Recycling. It was a private company in Oxnard, California. And he called them up and he was like, hey, got a couple F-14s that need to be recycled. And it looks like they got about $2,000 to $4,000 for each of the F-14s. Now, I was in the military and I was an avionics guy and a weapons guy. And I could tell you right now that some of our bolts were into $50. Some of the connectors were in the hundreds to thousands of dollars. So, so a whole aircraft for $2,000 to $4,000. Red flag. So anyways, once those got sold, it looks like it went to this recycling company, and that's when everything started to get a lot more interesting. As you would assume, the recycling company did not recycle them, which makes me laugh for real. So they started to sell them to local museum places. As a matter of fact, it looks like, I'm going to read this while I have this in front of me, but apparently, they got them for between $2,000 to $4,000, and they started selling, it looks like they sold one to Yanks Airplane Museum in Chino for $50,000. So this looks like somebody profited $45,000 for just probably taking an aircraft and moving it to storage and then selling it, which apparently they weren't supposed to, because per the Navy, the F-14s were never supposed to go to recycling centers to begin with. Why is this a big deal, especially if they were decommissioned? Well, first off, they weren't demilitarized, which is like a huge mistake, because at that certain time, one of our adversaries or enemies or whatever, people who don't like us, Iran, in those times, in the early 2000s, I believe, were still flying F-14s. Yes. I don't know how they got them. That should be I know on YouTube there's a story about the F-14s, how Iran did that. But apparently America was like, this isn't good. So Iran was running into some issues. According to the information from the federal government, Iran was running out of parts. And if you think about an aircraft, I worked on an aircraft, no parts, no aircraft, period. So one of the biggest national risks or security risk was that these F-14s could essentially be parted out and could essentially refund or resupply our enemy's fleet of F-14 aircrafts, which again, I don't know how they got an American-made aircraft to our enemies. Let's not even go into that discussion. But that was one of the big concerns. Well, it looks like even though the federal government seized these aircrafts, none of those parts, according to what I read, none of those parts did get to Iran. But one of the interesting parts is that there's a little bit of celebrity stuff going on here. All right, so apparently, let me see if I could come up here. All right, so one of those aircrafts was acquired by famed TV producer and Marine veteran Donald Belisario. I guess the guys made the show Jag. I need to watch that because it looks like a good show. But anyways, I've heard of it. I think I've seen a couple episodes. But he was saying that the Navy gave him the aircraft. That, as a matter of fact, that they actually cut the middle of the aircraft to make it completely unserviceable. And the TV producer was saying that they would just have to tow the vehicle across sets. But he got it, from the Navy, and he doesn't know about all this drama. But apparently he sold it to another company, like a museum or a collector or whatever. And I guess that guy got caught with his pants down, because essentially when the feds came, they took all his aircrafts, and this guy was like, man, I paid a lot for this. It was like on TV props. It had all the right paperwork. I don't know what paperwork you're talking about, but essentially, they took those aircraft. Well, they took them away, and they essentially took them to a recycling center in Arizona or something, whatever. They have, I didn't know that, but they have like a facility that deals with decommissioned aircraft, which makes sense. That'd be cool to tour that place or talk to somebody about it. But it really came down to national security from Iran, trying to make sure we don't give them extra parts. And also, there was a huge, flop or unprofessionalism. What's a good word? Or a huge mess up. Or in the Army, we used to say a huge soup sandwich that occurred by that officer who essentially just gave him away. Now, you would think, that officer was in it, and he could have, if you think it, because I do consider myself a forensic accountant. The money he got to recycling from California Public Recycling, it actually went into a fund called the Moral Welfare and Recreational Fund for a unit stationed at the naval base in Ventura County, California. So the money he originally got did go to a fund for something else. But I'm curious about the recycling company went and sold it for $50,000. So I'm not trying to speculate. Okay, I am trying to speculate. If you were going to get cut in, it was smart not to get cut in the beginning. Just donate that to charity. But there was $50,000 that was acquired pretty soon afterwards by a museum and that recycling company. But I'm sure that these federal agents did look at the bank statements and all the figures of both parties and made sure there wasn't anything super criminal going on. But this stuff is interesting. Well, guys, let me know what you think. I thought this was amazing. I had to make a video about it. All right, guys, stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button. Support your cool channels that you like, not only mine, but everybody else. That's how YouTube becomes YouTube. And at the end of the day, you want to learn something, right? We don't want to be TikToking. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.